All right, here's something that you don't hear every day, but let's talk about sex in Asia. Let's talk about what's happening in other people's relationships. What are some of the major issues and stumbling blocks that people are dealing with? And more importantly, what do you do about it? What do the experts say? What do they recommend? Well, we're joined by one of these experts right now. Please welcome to our program today, Dr. Richard Lim. Richard, excuse me, is the MD of the Relational Counselling Studio here in Singapore. They focus on the well being of couples and families. And Richard is a psychodynamic sexual psychotherapist. So, what that means is he looks at all of the stuff that's happened in your past and takes a look at what it's doing to you right now in the future. How is it turning up for you? How is it impacting your behavior, even though you may not even be aware of it? Richard, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, it's a really exciting topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in the practice for coming to 25 years, yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of get quite a bit of impression on the situation here in Asia. Yeah,
Yeah. Tell us about that, Richard. So 25 years, you've been
mm,
sitting at your desk, seeing couples,
mhm.
seeing individuals. What are the state of things right now? What are you seeing? What's the view from your desk?
Um, it's pretty complex, right? But I think to kind of convey the impression I get is that, well, I mean, the sexual issue has not become any easier in terms of challenges. Um, I think couples wish to get more intimate, relationship to be better, but I guess things that are happening in the world is getting faster. People are subjected to very high stress, right? So, and I think generally most of us want things to get faster. So I guess on the area of sexual intimacy, for instance, there are different factors that are involved in creating sexual intimacy that is going to be fulfilling, right? So, due to the kind of situation that we are in now in the 21st century, work, the way we view family, relationship, they all come into make it quite a challenge, right? But I would say that in my 25 years of practice, couples are also trying to adjust to the situation. Well, one good sign is that I'm getting couples more willing to talk about their challenges and difficulties. So that is a good sign. And of course,
Mm.
working it through, it does take quite a bit of commitment from couples to explore what they've gone through before in terms of the past experiences, right? And also the kind of moving towards a kind of objective that they wish for in their life,
Mm.
relationship and intimacy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that couples are becoming more willing to talk about it because
Mhm.
in general in Asia,
Mm.
sex is kind of a taboo topic and people are a little bit shy when it comes to talking about it.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that changing?
Yeah, it is changing. Maybe perhaps not as fast as I wish. Is there's still quite a bit of that holding back. But I guess when you do have a conducive and safe space to actually talk about it, actually my experience that well, most of the couples um, they are pretty ready to share more. So I'm getting more couples now being able to talk about the difficulties. I think, not sure, right? Probably exposure to uh, the different dimension of sexuality. I think the key thing is that when couples are able to feel comfortable in my consultation, they are actually very ready to share more, right? Because the initial period is often a tough one because, as you said, right, it's a taboo in many places and in many family culture. But when they are able to feel that this is a very discreet, confidential place where they can talk about it, they are actually pretty open about sharing what they got to deal with. Yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing quite like being in a therapist's office, to get
yeah,
someone to open
hmm
up and if they feel safe
hmm
as well, it's an
hmm
important part of it.
yeah,
So, couples are talking more,
hmm
attitudes are
yes.
shifting in
Mhm.
Asia. What are some of the most common things that you deal with. I think one thing that you were mentioning before we went live with this is
Yeah.
there's this myth out there
Mm,
that men
yeah.
always have to be ready to go, and
Yep.
everyone else is having loads of sex, and
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case.
Yep. Yep. Very well said, Lisa, right? Because there are quite a number of myths around. Like, for instance, one of them you mentioned, right? That, let's say, many men are all ready to get engaged in sex. They're full of energy, libido is high, and it also appears that everybody else is having a wonderful loads of sex. But actually, the reality is quite the opposite, right? I've in my work, I've attended to many men who struggle with low sexual desire, performance anxiety, because they see sexual engagement like a performance, just like a job that they got to do, right? And also the other difficulties that comes with stress from work, from the demands and expectation on each person. So the kind of energy that they would conserve for sex has, I mean, there are many competitors, right? So I mean, they will worry about work, kids, um, tons of things to do. So the challenge today that I see most couples would be really devoting themselves to cultivate such a time, a place where they could they could engage in meaningful sexual communication and being able to take a rest from also the kind of stuff they could deal with in life, right? So it is really a good thing. But I wish more couples could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone is so stressed. I mean, it's such a
Mm, mm.
fast-paced,
Yeah.
heavy, there's always so much. So
Hmm.
what happens then when you have a couple,
Yeah.
um, with mismatched libidos? Because that's a
Hmm.
pretty common one as a couples therapist myself, and for you as well. That's a pretty common one that you see. So for me, I would
Mm,
refer them out. If the main issue is sex, I would refer them to someone like
mm.
you who's an
Yeah.
expert. So
Hmm.
what's your advice if a couple has mismatched libidos? Let's start there.
Okay. I do encounter that quite frequently, right? Maybe let me cite a case, right? The wife is they're in their forties, right? Wife is having a higher libido. She has a stronger drive for sex, right? But not the husband, due to the nature of his work. Uh, he is really very stressed, according to him, and very low sexual desire. Yeah. So I think the first thing I would recommend, just like with this particular couple that I work about, I think it's about maybe about 6 months ago. Open communication. I think it's really important for couple to normalize that and not to see this as a uncommon occurrence. The mismatch in terms of wanting sex varies right over time. So open communication to talk as frankly as we could is really important. Then I guess it is also important to arrive at certain compromise if there's a need to do that. Kind of respecting the reality that it is going to be difficult to find a couple in perfect synchrony over sexual desire because we have different situation at work. We go through different stages of life, and we could attend to many other things, right? So, what is important is, I think, beside the open communication, to talk about what we wish and what we are struggling with. The other part is also to find other forms of communication that can actually help sexual intimacy, right? So it's a situation of what we call, um, while sexual intimacy or the sex that we want is also kind of supported by non-sexual communication. So spending time together, sharing time, listening to each other deeply, enjoying new experiences together. They are all wonderful way to enhance and help us to kind of synchronize our sexual desire. So we don't really have to kind of just focus simply on, oh, we are mismatched, worked on it, and we just keep emphasizing on sexual engagement. That
Mm,
that could unwittingly actually heighten the stress over sex. Yeah, so the
So
couple has got to relax. Yeah, communicate openly, using other ways
mm,
to get better engagement. Yeah, they all
mm,
help. Yeah,
mm. Oh, so focus on the connection and the
yeah,
communication, and
yeah,
hopefully the sex will follow, and you'll meet somewhere in the middle.
yeah.
If someone drives up here and someone is down here, maybe you meet in the middle. Okay, so here's a tough one. Here's a
Mm,
really
yeah.
tough one for couples.
Sure.
Um, what do you do if there's a couple who comes in and one partner says, "I'm just not attracted to my spouse or my
Mm,
mate anymore."
yeah.
What do you advise there? Because the thinking is you're either attracted or you're not attracted. What's your advice?
Mm. Okay. Yeah. I do get that quite a bit actually, and I think the first thing I would say is that it's not unusual to feel this way. Um, our attraction, just like our sexual desire, fluctuate over time. Um, so let me put it this way: that we could actually create a kind of problem because exactly because relationship is doing well. So we become more committed to each other. We share frequently. So emotionally, we get closer, right? So the relationship kind of move into a more stabilized period of time where we are able to manage the communication effectively, doing things together, right? And then we get really comfortable. And then when we get comfortable, it creates the kind of impression that this is a person that I know for a long time. And the irony is that you started to lose a bit of the sexual excitement that we normally get when we bump into someone for the first time. So it's like a crush, right? An infatuation or sexual attraction. I think we all experience it. You bump into someone really good looking, someone that's your fantasy or a celebrity that you idolize, right? We all get that kind of, whoa, I mean, this is what an arousal. I mean, but it's going to be difficult to duplicate that kind of sexual arousal or desire with somebody you have been together for 10 years, right? I
That's
mean,
not
so,
realistic. So
so,
what you're saying is you how do you walk that line if you're living with someone every day, you're paying bills, you're paying the mortgage,
oh,
you're
yeah,
taking
yeah.
trash, okay, so that's not really realistic to want that first time
Yeah,
meeting butterflies.
yeah, yeah, it's going to be tough, right? So I'll put it this way, but it is not entirely a kind of um, a total loss in the sense, right? I mean, because what we have in terms of the good part of having somebody that you're so comfortable with is that the sexual engagement could move into more meaningful connection. That's one, and couples could be encouraged to share more honestly fantasy. Couples who would like to use, let's say, playing with scenario to increase excitement, right? Now, those are the things that can actually be done by couples who have been together for long. So what they missed out is they no longer have the first time experience, the kind of surprise, the fantasy that we have when we bump into someone new, right? But with someone who have been with us for long, if open communication has been there and we build on that, then our courage to share that with our partner could make sex exciting, right? And because we are now open to trying new things, we explore our own fantasy. We are open to maybe expanding our range of sexual engagement.
Mm.
I mean, it's almost like when the kids are growing up, right? I mean, you're not going to expect teenagers to be playing with toys that the kids play. So what teens would have is that they have a wider range and they want to play with the kiddie stuff, right? So they have a range, right? So for the adults, it's the same thing, right? One of the wonderful thing about sexual engagement for couples is that I normally kind of tongue in cheek say that this is like the toy department in the relationship, where couples really need to, play, explore,
Mm.
and get aroused by the exploration, right?
Mm.
So long-time couple has the kind of safety to share this, right? I mean, With someone new, I mean, the excitement is that, well, it's new, it's surprising, right? But I guess it might be a little difficult to talk too much about some more intimate fantasy, because when someone is new, we are not sure whether they may come across as offensive,
Mm,
as a taboo. But long-time couple, I think
mm,
that is a lot more reduced. But it does
okay.
need the couple to be frank with each other to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So there's room within, so that
Yeah.
intimacy and or complacency or comfort that might feel a bit stifling, there's room within that to actually
Yeah.
branch out and explore and express yourself. So what happens if you're worried about, sometimes I'll get this from one partner, when
Yeah.
seeing a couple, they're reluctant to share their true preferences
Yeah.
because they're afraid of hurting their partner's feelings. What do you
Yeah.
do there?
Yeah. This is really a good question. I get it almost all the time when I encourage partners to talk about, what would be their preferences, or certain inhibition that they may have and they struggle, right? I think um, maybe the one concern is that we do not want to come across to our partner that we have this strange, weird uh, longing for something,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And we do not want to come across as we are being creepy, that um we are showing certain sign of psychological distress. I mean, there are many, many words that couple use to talk about when they're trying to share certain fantasy. They often have to qualify themselves. Oh, it's just in my head. I'm not even sure whether I should be entertaining the
Mm,
fantasy. Yeah. So I think the first hurdle is really for the couple to say that a fantasy, well, is a fantasy, right? We all have fantasy for the reason that because that particular thing is going to be hard to be fulfilled in real life.
mm,
So we fantasize about it. We all fantasize, the child, the adults, and everybody, right? But what is really important is the fantasy does reveal certain basic needs that we want our partner to listen to. So if the
mm,
couple is able to get some kind of understanding, when I share my fantasy and when you shared it, we're not going to be judgmental, right? We're going to talk about just like children telling each other, "Oh, I fantasize that I'm a Marvel hero, I'm Iron Man, whatever," right? And the kids talk that way, right? Okay, you're going to be the Catwoman, I'm going to be but if adults are able to give themselves the liberty to share a little bit about their fantasy, especially in sexual dimension,
mm,
it's
mm,
really a very good thing, in my opinion,
mm,
because in the fantasy, it does reveal what my partner really want in me. You know, the stress of life could eliminate the fantasy avenue, and to me, that's not a good thing, because when we stop the play, when we stop the fantasy, is a very clear sign that we are beginning to lose the zest and the very healthy reflection of vibrancy and health.
mm,
Just like a child who jumped up and danced around when he's happy, and he or she would cry without any apology, right? But when the child started to be kind of almost dumbed down and flatline, then we are really concerned, right? Because I think it's the same
mm,
thing for the adults, and we ought to be adults that are capable of fantasy, because it's a healthy expression of life. We have a very active brain for that. And the fantasy may reflect a certain need that we are trying to meet. And what better way than to tell the closest part in our life, these are my fantasy. And just
mm,
wondering, like, can we enact that just for the
mm.
fun of it at all? I mean, and that will be quite an adventure, isn't it? I mean, of course, as long as there's no harm unto anyone, and
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that is important, right? I mean, it's a fantasy, right? So we play the game. It's like going to the movie theater and watch a movie. It's a movie, right? It's not real. So we all enjoy Marvel hero stuff and we enjoy fantasy movie for the reason, right? We work
Yeah,
very hard in the real world. We get very tired. We go to the movie theater. We just want to be entertained by
yeah.
fantasy.
So
Yep.
so just understand that it's not weird, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's as long as
Yes.
no one gets hurt,
Yeah.
and it's consensual, well, then that's okay. So don't beat yourself up about it, is what you're saying, and embrace
Yeah,
it, explore, and converse with your partner about it.
yeah,
So so Richard, I'm always interested in the psychodynamic side of
yeah.
psychotherapy, and I know you're an expert in this area, especially when it comes to sex. What are some of the biggest issues that you see, the biggest barriers to intimacy that have their roots in our
Mm,
past, in our
mm,
childhoods?
yeah.
What comes up for you?
Okay. Maybe a few very common ones. Right. One of them is the kind of culture, tradition, or religion, faith. I mean, in Asia, we talk about um, the kind of environment where we were brought up in, right? So there'll be situation. Let's say, for example, someone subscribed to a faith. The faith comes with tradition, comes with a certain cultural expectation. For example, for let's say for a woman brought up in a very traditional, conservative, let's say a Chinese family, right? The talk about sex is virtually unheard of because it will be almost be seen as totally inappropriate. So
Mhm,
very few parents will be putting in the effort to educate the girl about sexual matters, even during puberty, right? It's almost deemed as a harsh stuff. So that can create quite a bit of mystery, and it's a taboo subject. Try not to go there. So that create this sense that if I need to find out more about sex, I got to secretly go to some sources and try to gather as much information as I want. I recall when I was working in the various educational institution to kind of get involved in sexual education for the adolescents, especially the late adolescents. Right? Many said that they have to find out from online, right? And then
mm,
this is when where it all depends on who do you or where do you go online to find those information. Unfortunately, more than half the time they get information they are actually not accurate. They are severely exaggerated
mhm,
because of sexualized images that we see nowadays, right? They all convey lots of distortion about the body, about real how real sex is like. So when then that happened, when they carry forward into relationships subsequently, there are a lot of hang-ups, right? There are a lot of myths that they got to deal with, a lot of distortion. And so one of them would be if I don't have the body of a gorgeous supermodel, then I'm not a person who deserves sex. Sex is only for the beautiful, the successful,
mhm,
the good looking, right? I'm not. So why should I even be talking about enjoying sex with my partner? Because well, it's something that I just got to do because I have to do it, right?
mm.
And
So
yeah, so
they're
those would be the issue. Yeah,
so they're not being educated in
mm,
their family of origin, and then they're
yeah,
getting their information online. So porn,
yeah.
Instagram,
Very common one. Yeah,
whatever. So, and then they set an unrealistic image in
mhm,
their mind of what good sex looks like, and they think, "I can't live up to that. I'm not even gonna try," and they shut down. Is that part of the
yeah,
process?
yeah, yeah. And this is particularly so with kind of popular culture, right? Everybody reinforce the myth. So we kind of do it to each other to almost see sexual engagement as uh, almost out of this world, right? So
Mm,
part of my job is to bring sex back into the world in a way that in realistic, practical sexual engagement and enjoyment. It's very much like let's say eating, right? I mean, we enjoy food. We don't just eat to live. We would like food to be an adventure. But there will also be time, for instance, when eating in our rush or in our stress, in a very matter of fact way, we need to eat. So we eat and we get on with life, get on with work. There'll be
mhm,
other time that we decide to give ourselves a bit of time to enjoy our favorite buffet spread, for instance, right? Now,
mm,
sex is a little like this. That it's not always mind blowing. I mean, it's not always the Hollywood style of engagement, right?
Mhm.
But many tend to feel that that is the real sex, right? So my sex, that is the average kind of sex, is not really sex, right? And every sex has to involve orgasm, whether it has got to be a super high moment. Now, those are the kind of distortion that create a lot of unmet expectation. Those expectations cannot be met because no
Mm.
one has sex that way, right? There will be mundane sex, sometimes boring sex, exciting sex, just like food, right? You enjoy a really good food sometime, other time, yeah, pretty matter of fact. So once we normalize it, I mean, that in that way, we are a lot more relaxed and chill
Mm.
about sexual engagement. There doesn't always have to be one moment, one high moment to the next high moment, because those things actually doesn't happen. Yeah,
Okay, so I have a couple of follow-up questions for you on that. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
one, how do you work with clients to make them realize? How do you bring them down from thinking it's got to be up here all the time? How do
yeah.
you bring them and normalize sex for them? And two, what's your advice to parents
Yeah.
who are from cultures where talking about it is taboo? So for the younger generations now bringing up their small kids,
Yeah.
what's your advice to them on how do you approach it with kids? So first one,
Uh,
how do you normalize it?
mm.
How do you make people realize?
Yeah, I think that normalizing gets more motivating when I kind of describe it this way, right? Um, we do not really want to eat a fantastic buffet for every meal. Just imagine that for a while. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, day to day, you're having this incredible spread of food, right? I think we're probably going to get a burnout from this, right?
Mhm,
We
mhm,
do that, right? So a better way to enjoy good food is we go to the simple food. We are capable of enjoying simple food,
mhm,
and then on and off we look for some new dishes, and then once in a while we go for an incredible spread, right? So that kind of intermingling on the way that we approach the way we eat will be a better way, because then every meal has its uniqueness, from the simple to the complex to the multi-layered taste to cuisine that comes from different parts of the world, right? I think I like to see sexual engagement that way. So when we normalize it, well, there will be quickie sex.
mhm,
Some couple tell me that no, they sometimes just they feel like doing it and they just do it, right? And other time they will plan it in such an elaborate portion on special occasion, and then open to intimacy in different places, not necessarily on the bed in the bedroom. So it's exactly how life unfolds, right? So
mhm,
then when we are able to see sex as intimacy that way, right? It is a lot more normalized, because that's what, well, that's how so-called the average person do sex. It takes
mm,
away the unnecessary pressure. And
yeah.
and and guess what? It's the normalcy that actually bring the real excitement, isn't it? Because then our expectation is not impossible, and we are a lot more relaxed. And when we are more relaxed, we are more playful. And playfulness is one big sex booster, right? I mean,
Mm. So
when we are
you
able to be playful, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you
that's
integrate it into your real life. So you lower your
yeah,
expectations a bit, you just integrate it,
yeah,
into your
yeah.
real life. And what about for parents raising young kids and they want them to be a little bit more relaxed about sex? What's your advice to them on how to educate their kids?
Yeah, yeah, really important topics, right? Because I would like parents kind of, I convey this as well, right? Try to reduce the kind of stigma on sex by talking about it as you would talk about anything in life, right? Teaching your kids how to manage finance, how to manage schoolwork, and then that department, I think, for many Asian families, never a problem.
Mm,
Managing friendship, managing their physical health. I think sex should be in that bundle as well, right? So, and what will be the motivation? I think when your children grow up with a very healthy understanding of sex, it it bring better decision making, right? And you will spare the parents the policing job, right? I think many parents in Asia is perpetually policing their sons and daughter, wondering what they're up to and making sure that they're not doing the wrong things, right? But instead of doing that, I think a better and less stress way to do it would be to educate, right? To talk about it. They're of course befitting the age they are in, so you need to convey that, right? What it means, what is sexual intimacy about, and what are the areas that they need to be watchful, and
Mm.
how they can be more mindful on. There are also certain risks that the kids need to know as they grow up when they
Mhm.
make decision on sex, like for the sake of health and safety. At the same time, also going beyond into seeing sex, not just sex isolated, right? But sex in relationship. I think that is the one that I'm really concerned about, because when you pull sex away from relationship and sex stands alone, it is not real, right? Because sex I don't think it's possible to take sex away and isolate it from relating. So it is really important for parents to kind of educate themselves,
Mhm.
understand how sex plays a very important part in intimate relationship, and to let their children kind of know, right, that which is why decision on sex has to be made with clarity, with understanding as they grow up, right? So that whenever they are engaged in that, they do know what they are doing, right? I mean, we're not expecting perfection, but it's just that understanding will ensure that their sons and daughters are managing this aspect well and not create unnecessary burden for themselves.
So Richard,
Mm,
so great points on how to normalize sex for your kids and to take away some of the
mm,
stigma that
yeah,
often goes with it, especially in some of the more conservative groups
that's right.
here
Hmm.
in Asia.
Hmm.
Let's talk about trauma, the role
Hmm.
of
Sure.
trauma. Everyone, we all have traumas, big T traumas, small T
Hmm.
traumas. How does that sometimes affect adults when it comes to sex?
Yeah. A really important question to attend to, right? So in my years, I've encountered numerous situations when a man, a woman get traumatized in area of sex, right? It could be as severe as sexual abuse that they suffer, or it could be certain bad experiences that they are kind of associated strongly with sex as a whole, right? Although some of those may not be sexual in origin, but kind of interpreted to be associated with sex, right? But nevertheless, when someone go through traumatic, difficult experiences, certainly, right? So the nervous system start to associate in very rapid way when they begin to open themselves to sexual engagement, right? Memories could come rushing back, and that could actually act as obstacles. Let me cite an example. That um, they came to me for counseling because they've been married for about 8 years, right? So after the two daughters were born, the wife simply more often than not say no to sex with the husband. So
Mhm.
the husband got really concerned because he felt that it must be due to the lack of love. So he got pretty distressed. He's wondering why is the wife not loving him enough to want to have sex with him, right? And the wife keeps saying that it's nothing to do with that. It's just because I'm very exhausted. My sex drive is really low, so I'm really not too keen to be doing this, right? But in case if you really want it, then I will oblige. But whenever the husband hears that she's going to oblige that, he lose all sexual interest. So it became quite a point of conflict for the couple. So they decided to come and see me, right? So in the process, I mean, the wife simply repeated herself to say that my sex drive is low and I'm not interested in this. So my husband has got to empathize that I'm not everybody's sex drive is as high as him, right? Husband kind of defended himself by saying, "My sex drive is really not high. I think yours is too low." So in comparison, it does look like I'm some kind of maniac in sex, right? But eventually, when we are moving into the intimacy part, one factor that comes up quite strongly is that due to the stress that they both face, she has got to. She's a homemaker, right? But there are a lot of stuff that she wants to handle. One of the children has got special needs, right? So
Mm.
she finding herself really tired. So her complaint of exhaustion is very legitimate, right? But eventually, when I was working through with her, the wife did say that, can I, can I see you alone for a while, because there's something that I need to process with you, but I'm not so comfortable to do it in front of my husband. Yeah. So she actually texted me between session requesting for that, right? So of course I told her, said that it might be good also to let your husband know that you are seeing me alone to process something more personal. Husband said sure. She came, and then it was a big surprise to me. Like, she said that she was actually raped when she was 18 years old. Okay.
Uh,
So when they came and see me, she was 36, husband's 40, right? She said that it was a very, very traumatic experience, right?
oh,
And um, she could not shake off those images that keep coming back whenever she does sex with her husband. And then she said that I'm supposed to enjoy that. I love my husband a lot, right? But it's almost that my body can't help it. When you touch me in a certain way, when things begin to happen, my body simply react with a lot of disgust, a lot of um,
mm,
feelings that I'm impure, I'm dirty, I've been contaminated, right? So, and she cried, right? It was a very emotional moment. She said that I I really am at a loss. I'm really worried that my husband may not want this relationship. So please don't tell my husband what I told you, that I was really
oh,
very clean. But my husband is quite a conservative guy. I have no idea what he's going to do to me there, because I kept that as a secret. So I could have promised her, no, I'm not going to say that, right? I will not do that without your permission. Okay. But I think you kind of know the issue, right? So if you're not going to reveal this part, you may have to see how you can convey to the husband that the real cause of you saying no to sex has nothing to do with not loving him, right? Now that would be an example of something that trauma could do, right? And I have counselors who are kind of aware of what caused those trauma, and there are
mm.
those who couldn't, right? I mean, men and women come and tell me for some reason they could not remember. They, yeah,
They've repressed it. So going back to your client,
mm, yeah,
um, so PTSD clearly getting triggered whenever there was sex.
mm,
How do you how do you help someone move past that?
yeah. Now, the of course, the working through those trauma, we have certain technical aspect, right? So, I mean, briefly put, is really to allow the person to release some of those emotions that stay very trapped in the body. Because I think in trauma work, we are fond of this phrase that the body keeps the score, right?
Mm,
So the body react because the body reacts not to harm us, the body reacts to protect us. Because when we are being violated that way, the body has a natural defensive system. And so emotions get generated, and very powerful one, right? And well, I mean, in her case, she described that it was a very traumatic experience because the guy was all over her, right? And it was frightening because she was worried about her safety. She doesn't want to be violated yet. So it's almost a, a moment where her life is threatened, right? And she's afraid that he may get killed. She may get killed if she doesn't agree to that. Then there's a part that violently doesn't want that, but there's a part that almost got to submit to that. So she got squeezed into a very highly emotionally charged state, and with no outlets for her to release those emotions. Right. So some would call it like a silent scream. You can imagine
mm,
that, isn't it? So the body get frozen with a lot of those. bundles of emotional energy trapped, right? So what I will have to do with her is more to, as we talk about what happened, right, to release. Then there are exercises that I prescribe to her to do to journal, to write it out, to cry it out, to move, right? So those are very body-based work, correct? And then eventually also to correct certain distortion because she has a certain view of sex because of the very nasty experience. She actually felt that it was her fault, right?
Mm.
The one who did it to her was a neighbor, apparently a very friendly neighbor at first, right? But she wasn't aware, right? I mean, and it happened, right? So she got into this fear so much that after that, right, she for a very long time, she didn't really want to go around in the neighborhood at all, right? She would
Mm.
go to school, she'll run back home, and even when she's much older, going to work, right? She's just not keen. So it's not just about the sex, right? Actually, many areas of her life were impacted. She doesn't trust men. She has
Yeah.
few male friends. Even with male colleagues, she's very careful. She doesn't want herself to be put in any kind of vulnerable position. A couple of times she told me that when she's in a live with a man alone, she gets really nervous. Right? I mean, she has got this fear that, when I'm alone with a man, I mean, I really don't care who the man is, right? I am not safe. Yeah. So those will be the issues that actually brought her
Mm.
quite a bit, right? But when we process it through in a therapy session, she start to get better, right? Distortion are dealt with, right? But that doesn't mean that she's totally relaxed, right? There's still a bit of remnant of that nervousness, but eventually she was capable of being more open, more
Mm.
relaxed, right? So engage the husband sexually in manners that she find easier to kind of restart the process.
So
Yeah.
that process, is that how you helped give her
Mm,
her voice back? The way you described it was so powerful that it's
mm,
like a silent scream on
yeah.
the inside that she's
Yeah.
keeping to herself. So how do you get that
Mm.
voice? How do you reactivate that voice again for her? What's the process?
Okay. It is essentially through various ways, right? I mean, it's to let's say in as a prescribed thing to do that she could of course when she learned how to ground herself because I didn't really want her to get overwhelmed with the emotional floodgate open, right? So in session, as we talk, she would tear, she gets angry, she get highly emotional, right? But because I'm
Mm.
there, so I'm able to receive it. Then as we go along, right, there'll be time where I need to feel that she's getting too exhausted. So I'll pause. We revert back to something a bit more objective, a bit more distant, right? And then we go back right back into the emotional work.
Mm.
Right? Then on her own, she is someone who finds journaling very useful. She likes to write out, right? So I encourage her to write out those feelings, to sketch, to go to her favorite place. I recall she enjoyed going to the seaside. She said the sea actually make her feel really calm. So there are a couple of times when she went and she cried very loudly and she was screaming at the seaside when nobody's around. Right? So she was able to enjoy certain moment where it's almost like a catharsis, right? She released it, right? But I did tell her that it's not just a release, right? After the release, she need to close it, to to go back to the thinking that, now that the bundles are out, I'm getting a little calmer and clearer. Let me let me work through some of the cognitive, the thinking aspect, right? Because there's quite a lot of distortion, right? And then
Mm.
she eventually was able to align herself more and more so with reality. One horrible effects of trauma is to make the victims of trauma misalign with reality. And the misalignment causes a lot of, well, at best, inconveniences in life, bad words, right, it actually blocked them from happiness. For instance, one of them, she's deeply suspicious of all men. That makes life a very difficult process. Half the world,
Really?
man. I mean, you got to work with a boss, customers, with many things to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recommend, Richard, that if someone's gone through trauma like that, a rape
Mm.
or childhood abuse or something that's
Yeah.
blocking them from
Yeah.
connecting,
Yeah.
should they share it with their partners?
Um, it really good question, right? And I'm really hesitant to talk about a definite answer to that, right?
Right.
Because in her case, she told me not to tell the husband, not to review it,
Mm,
because she's just not ready for it. So I respected her decision. I mean, I can see where she's coming from, right? She's genuinely worried that if the husband were to know it, would he be able to take it? Would he see her very differently from then on? I don't know, right? I don't think so. I think the husband would still love her, but well, I'm not her. She has to make a decision, right? So in her case, I actually said this, right? I said that, well, I mean, it's okay. I mean, maybe not to reveal to him at this point, but as you continue to improve and move along, well, I mean, I can foresee that you will reach a point where you feel that you're confident that of his love for you, and that your confidence in yourself being able to express to him what actually happened to you, right? The disclosure and the sharing
sure.
and the listening could connect both of you to an even deeper level. But I
Mm,
guess until then, I would my priority at that point was to work her through the trauma,
yeah.
right? Unperturbed by this worry that if my husband were to know about it, I got something else to worry about now, right? And so I have no idea how the husband will react to that. I mean, I don't think he's going to be too adverse to it, but I don't know, right? So I can't promise her that. So yes, I think essentially whatever we've gone through bad experiences, I do think it's a good idea eventually to share with your partner.
Mm,
What will be the motivation? Right? Because when you share it with the partner, then during sexual engagement, more empathy can be shown, right? And the obstruction for the person who has gone through the trauma, when it's understood, it relaxes the person. I recall another case, right? She suffered great pain. I think the pain is real, physically real, right? I mean, I told her to check with the medical doctor for that part. But I think there's also quite a bit of the psychological pain, and they get blended with the physical, right? It's
mm,
pretty difficult to differentiate when is the pain physical and when is the pain psychological, right? Emotional pain. So every time during sexual intercourse, so foreplay seems to be okay, but when sexual intercourse is about to begin, right, she would complain about this great pain.
mm,
And the husband actually told me, right, I haven't even touched her. There
mm.
cannot be pain, right? So she was a case of sexual abuse. Yeah, she suffered abuse from within the family, right? Her her biological father and brother sexually abused her.
Oh my.
It was a very difficult situation, right? And so because of those abuses that prolonged over a couple of years, it was tough, right? So very tense body, according to her. She described this is a lot of tension. Right? So I mean, she sought medical help. So the medical doctor did the right thing. They check everything, anatomy and all that. Yeah, they're fine, right? I mean, nothing is wrong with her, right? So eventually she came to see me exactly because the doctor said, no, there's nothing wrong with the body. The body is fine, right? But of course they deal with the pain, right? I mean, so the doctor approached you by, okay, let's hypothesize and give her different medication, do some procedure here and there. But eventually, because the pain still stays, they said, why don't you talk to a therapist? Maybe there's some part, right? She didn't review about the sexual abuse to the doctor. She's not going to deal with
Mm,
it physically, right? But apparently this didn't work for her because the physical part is just part of it.
mm. So this
I
is
think,
where you come in to try to
yeah,
untangle it. What's the success rate, Richard? So you've shared a couple of instances where there's been trauma and abuse in the past. Um, can people process it and get over it and have successful sexual relationships even after something like that?
Yeah, I would say no difference from the success rate in trauma work, right? Let's say somebody would suffer PTSD, in other situations, accident or wars and all that, right? Yeah, there will be those that they kind of effectively work through those things, so they get their life back. But as I
Mm,
say, right, I mean, there's certain scars that stays, and it doesn't it doesn't totally get removed. I mean, in a way that, but I don't think it is therefore it is bad, right? Because I think when the scars remain, they could use that as added meaning for their life, a sense of purpose.
mm,
So on certain occasion in their life, they did say something like, well, I think when I managed those trauma symptoms much better. So I got back my life. I'm generally managing well, but on
mhm,
occasion, right,
right.
uh, due to due to what they've gone through, there will still be a bit of sensitivity. But they say that, well, their sensitivity is not always a bad thing because I recovered, right? So I'm somebody who has gone into deeper life because I've been through something really difficult, right?
Mm,
The nightmare. So when I woke up from the nightmare, um, I think I'm a better person.
mm. So
I
you
don't
help
take
them
things for
cut
granted.
it
Yeah,
you
yeah,
help them cut it down to size and make
yes,
it feel like it didn't happen yesterday, it's not gonna happen now. You
yeah,
help them put it in the past and
mm,
understand that they're safe now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Mm,
and, and especially for those who have gone through such difficult experiences, the therapy provide a wonderful way to to reframe our understanding of it, so that could deepen their lives in a meaningful way for themselves. Yeah, so that can be a really good way to redeem what they have lost. Yeah.
Richard,
Mhm.
let's talk a bit about, another kind of
Yeah.
trauma that we
Mhm.
often hear about, and that's infidelity.
Mm.
Um, what happens when your partner cheats on you, essentially,
Mm.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
it gets found out. Just having a couple camera
Mm.
issues here, not quite sure what's going on, but,
Mm.
we'll
Mm.
just
Mm.
keep you on camera for a while.
Oh.
So what happens when a couple comes to you and one of them's been unfaithful and it
Yeah.
feels like it's such a trauma. I mean, the person who's been cheated on, they often have PTSD.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, how do you rebuild that? How do you rebuild intimacy
Mhm.
after infidelity? And how do you get them to the second version of their marriage? Because a lot of couples do
Mm.
manage to
Yep.
overcome that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And well, I'm glad with that, right? For the couples who kind of recover, they have bring the relationship back on track, right? But there's also a common assumption that when they deal with the communication, the recovery, things are fine now and they get on, right? But actually, the unspoken or the elephant in the room is that their sexual engagement actually has declined significantly because of the affair, the extramarital relations, right? But nobody's talking about it because they assume that, well, I mean, well, it's supposed to heal itself, but it doesn't actually, right? So in my work with couples who suffer infidelity issue, it's actually in my practice to ask them eventually that how has the sex life been, right? Now that we've been working on this, are you happy with it? Are there certain obstacles that are there because of what happened, right? And often, of course, right, there are obstacles. Often the party who felt betrayed will say things like, I really do not want to do too much of that because I know that he has slept with others. I don't
Mhm.
want, I do not I'm not very motivated to do that. And every time when I sleep with him or her, my partner, I can't help but to remember who else have you slept with, right? So it kind of psychologically blocks them. demotivate them, right? And I say that this is important to address because if we allow that to fester, it eventually start to block communication again, right? And then the unhappiness over the sexual intimacy start to spread to the other aspect of life for the couples, right? So the thing I normally ask a couple is that I will ask them a very straightforward question. How was the last time when you had sex? When was it? Um, how did it feel? Were you
Mm.
happy? If you were to rate it 1 to 10, how would you rate it, right? My purpose of asking that question is to check if there are certain thing that they want to share about the sexual connection, right? And very often they will tell, no, it's not as good. It's, well, we just do it because we're supposed to do it. Since we are back together, I guess if a couple has come back together, of course, sex is one thing that we do, right? But not too exciting. It's pretty um, obligatory, almost to prove to themselves that we're back. You know what I mean? Yeah,
It's hard to
which is
kind of work it out, right? How do you get them past that?
yeah. So one of the things I get them is to be quite transparent, to share about what they wish for. Now that we have get back the relationship, right? What would you like? What would you like to see happen in your sex life, right? What do you wish for? We don't really have to go back to before the affair, right? We can talk about maybe moving it forward, bringing it to the so-called the next level, right? So this is when I need them to be transparent, to be honest, and to talk about um, what they long for, and the so-called the justification for that. I tell the couple, right? If the affair was initially started because of sexual flings and all that, right? Then often you will see one partner getting really nervous, right? So when it's almost like sex gets us our relationship into trouble, we should try to avoid it. We should just
Mm,
focus on the kids, the work, the family. Now that is not true. That's a distortion, right? It's not
mm,
sex that got them into trouble, right? The issue is that to understand why those things happen, right? Now let me put it this way: in my couple work, I go with this, right? Most couple are committed to each other. Actually, I believe so. That's why they're here to see me for counseling. They're committed to the process. They are emotionally usually quite close, right? But they tend to underestimate the need for passion, the need for sexual engagement and excitement, the need for romance, and to use a more commonly used word, the need for surprises, the need for the unpredictable, right? It is a basic need for humans, right? We are not just creatures that long for security and safety, and that's it, right? We want security and safety in order to play, in order to be curious, in order to explore, right? We are
mm,
very curious creature, which is why of all the species, we are the one that so-called rule the earth, isn't it? Because of technology. Just look at the things that we created for ourselves, right?
mm,
Without curiosity, without the spirit of exploration, we will not be where we are today, right? It's very obviously it's a basic need. We do need that, right?
mm.
But people tend to not want to go the direction. Now that is a pity, right? So I've tell a couple say that you need commitment, you need emotional intimacy, and you also need passion. Passion
So,
is
so my question there is after infidelity. So you're right that you need
yeah,
that sense of
yeah,
safety in order
mm,
to be playful and to feel
yeah,
connected again.
yeah,
So after trust has been betrayed,
mm,
how do you help a couple restore that? Because I know there are
mm,
different approaches. I know some approaches are you just the partner who stepped out, they open up all of their devices. The
mm,
other partner can check in at any time and they can ask as many questions as you want.
sure.
And you just keep doing that until a sense of safety starts to return. What do you feel about that approach?
Yeah, I mean, that is one way. Yeah. I think what is really important is the patience that need to be exercised. Um, Let me cite this kind of pretty typical situation. Let's say it is the man who did the betrayal, right? Often he will complain that my wife keep asking me the same old question again and again. The affair was already over 5 years ago.
Mm,
Why am I still trying to dispel her suspicion. Why am I still doing that? But now my response is usually very simple and straight because I said that, well, she was hurt, right?
Mm,
So the hurt has damaged quite a bit of the trust, and there's a lot of fear and anxiety. So I need you to empathize with that kind of fear. That fear and anxiety is generated because of love. You are
mm,
really important to her, right? So she's going to keep asking those same questions again and again. But what I can assure you is that those questions will begin to dissipate a little bit more
mm,
gradually when you do not lose patience. So the real challenge is I'm going to encourage the one who so-called did the betrayal. And this is the way to pay the price, right? I mean, it's not just about promising the person I'm not going to do that again, that I'm committed to you, but show it in your action, right?
yeah.
So share, tell, and no matter how many times your wife asks you, are you bringing us to this restaurant because you saw her there 2 years ago? Said it. No, it's not. No, we didn't come to this place. No.
It can take
Then
years. It can take
yeah, it will
years.
take years. That same question is asked 20 times, right? So some of the guys get very impatient. Can you stop asking me silly question like that because I'm not going to answer anymore, right? And then she will start
Well,
to
it
react.
doesn't build safety, does it? It re-triggers
Yeah,
and
it
brings
re-triggers, right?
again.
Yeah. So I need the so-called perpetrator of the betrayal to stay patient to do this, right? Now, of course, the assurance to them is that this is not going to last forever, right? It will take a time. It will take time.
Mm,
And then also, I'm trying to get the one who asked the question to manage, to be more mindful that when anxiety begin to rise, it doesn't always have to end up with more question. Anxiety rise, see whether you could observe it mindfully.
mm,
Let it stay for a while. It makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's okay. Stay with the discomfort, and then it comes, and then it goes. So it's the same thing, right? So I'm trying to tell the guy to say that, okay, um, the those questions going to come and go, right? So when it comes, deal with it, and then it will go, right? So eventually it will dissipate. Then I'm going to tell the one who's holding the anxiety and suspicion not to always enact it by asking questions. And so eventually, let's say the wife in this case, right? She's capable of not more and more questions, right? But there'll be time when she allow that thoughts to come and to go
mm,
without activating any behavior on the part, right?
yeah.
So if two parties are able to work at it this way, eventually they will navigate past this period, right? Which is going to be there for I don't know, I mean, typically almost 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
right? It's
And
a
and
long
and
time.
and just a note for our viewers as well, if this is something that you're going through
Mm,
in your marriage, and I'll get you to weigh in on this as well, Richard, but
mm, mm,
people get through it. Couples get through it, and they
yeah,
have you can survive infidelity, and you can
yeah,
have a 2.0 version of
yeah,
your marriage. And sometimes
yeah.
once it's all flushed out and um, someone's really sorry and they really
Mm,
apologize and you work on the trust, the second version of the marriage can be even better
yeah.
many times than the first.
Yes, yes. Very well said, right? It's
Mm,
certainly true, right? It's exactly like trauma, right? I mean, people have gone through it. They have a mark of that, right? What they call
yeah.
scars, right? But the scar doesn't have to be a bad thing because it acts as a kind of memory or reminder. But the scar is healed. And there's a scar
Mm,
that whereby it's kind of it deepen a person. There's a person who have been through a lot in life, and this doesn't have to be a regret, right? But it
mm,
could be a very powerful motivation to not take life for granted or relationship for granted, but to work at it. So couple have been through infidelity issue effectively and move on. The love for each other is a lot deeper actually.
mm.
They realize right they have something really good going and they really got to protect it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nicely said. Nicely said.
Yeah.
So many things come up, in the
Mm,
bedroom, things from our past, things
yeah.
unhappiness with relationships, and so much can come up. What about, the physical side of things? Richard,
Mhm.
the
Okay.
the the
Yep.
the medical concerns, can you talk to us a little bit about that before we wrap it up? Erectile dysfunction,
Sure.
um premature ejaculation, aging,
Sure.
even all
Yeah,
of that can have an impact.
yeah, they do, right? The now, of course, the very physical aspect, anatomy, I don't really deal with that. I rather they work with the doctors, right? But I would say that performance anxiety, as the name imply, erectile dysfunction, they all has got to do with quite a bit of um, a way to view sexual engagement as performance. Yeah, and I think, well, very much with the myth that when I'm enjoying sex with someone, I got to prove to the person that I'm capable of high level performance, right? I got to make sure that my partner reach orgasm, that I got to ensure that this is a fantastic, mind-blowing sex. I got to be up to it. I got to make sure that my partner absolutely enjoy it, and better than anybody that that, that so-called come before me. Right?
So
None of
much
this is
pressure.
actually
So much
so.
pressure.
It is you can imagine that with that kind of expectation, any one of us is going to fall short, right? So performance anxiety and all that is really difficult because it creates this expectation that's actually not real, and it actually sidetracks us from a very important part of sexual engagement, which is enjoying the wonderful intimacy physically that also brings out the emotional intimacy. And the other part is pleasure. Now, pleasure has get a very bad name for quite a while, right? It's almost I'm not sure where it comes from, but I guess when we are enjoying something, you almost feel bad about it, right? I think the community really need to work through this one, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with having pleasure.
Mm,
Um, so sex for pleasure, sex for intimacy has got to be focused on, right? Not so much sex for performance. If I may kind of give another metaphor of that, right? I mean, it's almost like when you enjoy your work that you do. The work is hard work, there will be challenges, but because I enjoy the work, the hard work
mm,
is not torturous, right? I will have stress because of expectation, but because I really enjoy my work, I enjoy my psychological, I enjoy psychotherapy because I enjoy helping. So despite the high stress, the high demands, right, I derive lots of pleasure working. I derive a lot of satisfaction. I get my high, right? So in sex, I think it's the same thing. We really need to focus on the intimate contact that brings about pleasure and enjoying the pleasure, enjoying the intimacy, right? And put the performance aside because the more you focus on performance, the more the focus on performance is going to block pleasure and intimacy.
mm.
So we need to really be relaxed and chill to enjoy the sex, right? So unfortunately, everybody puts sex exactly that the way we deal with career, the way we deal with family, the way we
Mm.
do hobby. We are too hard on ourselves. Right? It means that
Yeah.
even when you're doing your hobby, you got to be the best in the world. I mean, and you kill the hobby, right?
Yeah, and I keep thinking about the word perfectionism kept popping into my
Yes.
mind when you were talking
Yeah.
about that. There's so many
Yes.
people who do well and they're high performers, they're also perfectionists.
Yeah.
And that could get in the way as well, based on what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I work with couples who are so-called high achievers, right? And they often get into this issue that they want their sex life to be as good as their business life,
Mm.
and they measure it with KPI, and they said, and and they stress each other to no end.
My
I
goodness.
recall this couple that I worked was in Jakarta. That I run the center there, and they came to me in their late 40s. The man is a CEO. The wife owned her own business as well, right? Uh, Very intelligent couple, but they both suffer from such high anxiety when they have sex. And then, you know what's the irony? So they couldn't have sex with each other. They have sex with others.
Oh
So
my.
it created a big
High
problem
pressure.
in the marriage, right? They do
Yeah.
love each other, right? But on the sex department, this is the irony. They say that when I'm with my husband, why I feel that I need to be like a sex goddess or sex god and to do those things, right? So I need to escape from that. I'm so stressed. So I'm going to have sex with somebody that doesn't really matter. because she is not going to judge me or he is not going to judge me, right? So the irony is that when they turn to others with sex, they feel more relaxed. You see the tragedy of that, right? Because they don't really have. So when they come from counseling, I pointed it out that it is really important for both of you to relax, right? Enjoy each other. Sex is not a competition. There are no gold medals to be won. and, and this should be the direct opposite of business life, isn't it? You go to the boardroom, you want to achieve your business target. There are no targets in sex. It's an end in itself. You are enjoying each other, not as a mean to further end. It is for you, right? So kick off your shoe, dive on the sofa, and enjoy yourself, right? I mean, there's nothing. And, and so they did a couple of things that to rekindle the passion. So they got it back.
Mm. Well, I think that's a wonderful way to wrap things up, Richard. And
Yep,
thank you
yep.
so much for your wisdom and your insight and your knowledge, and hopefully it's been helpful to our subscribers and to our viewers out there. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa, for making this possible, right?
All
Really
right. Well,
appreciate
we're gonna put all of your contact details in the
it. Yeah,
description. So if anyone wants
sure.
to reach out to Dr. Lim, please go ahead and click down on the description, and we'll make sure all of his contact details are there for you. And please give us a like and subscribe, because it helps us in the algorithm and helps get this information out to other people who might find it useful and helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks a million, Richard. We'll
Thank
see you.
you. Thank you.